What's up, everybody? Adam here. Wanted to cover customer interviews in a little bit more in depth. Set that down right there. Just a little wireless remote. Wanted to cover customer interviews in a little bit more depth. I did a short form video on this. Felt that it was an important enough topic that I wanted to cover with a little bit more specificity. So I've got 5 things I wanted to go over today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the subject matter of the interviews and the types of questions that you're going to want to ask. Who you want to actually get to come to the interviews, yourself, the team, types of customers, things like that, how you actually can go about getting them, documenting the interviews themselves, what are some of the artifacts that you're going to want to create, and then summarizing those interviews as a result of the artifacts that you produce, as well as sharing them with your team afterwards. A little disclaimer, I am by no means an expert in this topic. Just some little things here and there that I've put together over the years that I've found to be a pretty good practice. Always open to suggestions, always open to see what other people are doing. Really just interested to kind of put this down. Hopefully it's helpful to somebody. Just thought I'd pass it on and see what's shaking. So let's go. So first thing, subject. So one of the questions that always comes up is, well, I can't interview a customer because I have nothing to talk to them about. That to me is a little bit of bullshit. You always have something to talk to a customer about, regardless of whether or not you're building a new feature, have a problematic idea or an issue that you're trying to get an answer towards or uncover. You can definitely go into these just sort of with broad strokes, looking for general information, general extraction of data, just really looking to dig into customer problems that they're having. So you can approach it more from a broad perspective of, what do they like about the product? What don't they like? What their day-to-day is like? Those types of things. So really when you're sitting down to craft the subject matter itself, you're really going to want to sit out specific questions or a script, even if the subject matter that you're looking to cover is quite broad. If it's just end-to-end product, it might be a feature validation, so you're going to bring prototypes to the table. You're going to bring, designs that you're working on, maybe clickable prototypes or something like that. But really just lay it out, collect all of the types of questions that you want to ask first and foremost. What you're really based on, those are going to be based on what you're really looking to get out of it, quite frankly. So have an end goal in mind, but it doesn't have to be about anything super specific. So really just script it ahead of time and think it through a little bit, just to get yourself going. Little tip to the quote that I received a long time ago. I can't remember from whom. But one of the questions that I'll always ask is, what is the best part of your day and what is the not best part of your day? So what do you love about your job? What do you hate about your job? Those are just certain great things to try to get a little bit of a personal touch from the customer, from the user themselves, about them and about what they're doing beyond how they use your product, how they're interacting with it, so on and so forth. So to recap quickly, subject can be general, can be about a specific feature, can be about a specific problem, but really you're just looking to get in there and just talk to a customer for reasons that I'll cover in a little bit. That's first thing. Second thing, who. So obviously the product manager, you should always have someone else alongside you. Typically, I will look to bring someone from design or user experience, as well as a developer. They might be active participants or observers. Anyone from your team, QA, customer success, probably talking customers a lot, but really anybody that wants to come along, be part of an interview, see how it works, see what's happening, participate or not participate, really doesn't matter, but just to have someone alongside of you in order to be able to get them exposed to customers as well. It's a great opportunity to do it. Typically, if I have 3, 4, 5, 6 customer interviews a week, I'll typically throw them out at stand-up in the morning or in Slack or whatever, and just say, hey, here's the times they're happening. Anyone that wants to join, feel free to do so. And more often than not, you'll get active participants that are really looking to engage and just hear what customers have to say. So you plus someone else from your team, either participant, usually would be great to have someone that's actually asking questions or asking questions or not, but it doesn't really matter, just so long as you have someone next to you and alongside you observing or taking part. So that's the second thing. Third thing, documenting. Pretty common to do recordings of a screen. I'll also do screenshots, obviously recording if they permit you to do so. So recordings of the session, audio or video or both. Screenshots or screen grabs of things as you're going. If there's key things that come up that you want to recap and you're not actively recording video, as well as just raw notes. So someone there to help take notes. I do them sometimes myself if I'm doing the interview solo, if that happens. If you can't get anyone to do it with you, it's just important to talk to the customer. So I'll just write the notes as I go and then transpose them later into a Word doc. That's just the way I prefer to do it. You can type away if you want to. Usually it's best to have someone there to actually capture the notes as you're asking questions and engaging and interacting with the customer directly. But again, not a must do. The most important thing is that you're actually talking to the customer. So that's the third. Summarizing them. I think this is a step that a lot of people miss, a lot of product managers miss. So once you have the recording, you have the raw notes. I hear a lot of product managers that just say, they're in this Google Drive, everyone go look at them. Nuh-uh, can't do it that way. Have to summarize. And I really think it's important in order for you to glean the learnings, to extract value from the actual interview that you've done. So how do I go about doing this? Well, typically it'll be a Google Doc or a Confluence page or something like that, where I'm actually going back through my raw notes, rewatching the recording, really reliving the interview as best as I can while it's still fresh in my mind, typically 24 hours, 36 hours afterwards at the maximum, in order to be able to understand all the things that happened and remember them really accurately. Because when I'm summarizing, what I'm looking to do is to actually give an overview, first and foremost, of who was there, the business, the customer, when it took place, what persona this customer is, really looking to just sort of capture a snapshot of the type of customer and who participated in the interview. Just a little box in the corner of a document will do, or just a little preamble at the very outset, just to give whoever's going to read it or yourself later when you're revisiting it, you can remember just some of the particulars about what the interview was and who took part in it. The second thing is, then I'll go into a little bit of an overview. So what did this interview actually go through? And this is when you're going to recap on the subject and the questions from the first step that you went into earlier. So you can go back to that script, back to sort of your end result that you were looking to get out of those interviews first. And you can actually, did you get that? What did you learn at a high level? What was covered? Was it a feature validation? If so, what feature? Links off to the prototypes, things like that. Really just looking to give a summary of the actual interview that was done, the topic at hand, the subject matter that actually was covered. And then I will actually get into looking through the notes and trying to pull out problems. So, what are the actual customer problems that I can articulate that I learned as a result of talking to this customer? Usually a lot of people will just list out, take the raw notes, and then as they're summarizing, they'll just list out feature ideas, or they'll just list out, bugs that the customer encountered, or so on and so forth. I think if you're having the types of discussions you should be having and really covering the types of things that you need to be covering, you're going to be able to actually pull that apart and really articulate clear problems. And what will end up happening is, as you go interview after interview after interview after interview, you're going to find common themes that start to occur. Even if you're doing subject matter coverage that's very broad, you're just talking to the customer about your product in general, not about one feature specifically. But even if you do drill into a specific feature, then think about it. You're going to have interview after interview after interview after interview that really digs into commonalities that start to emerge. Those problems are really going to start to come out very clearly if you're spending the time to think about it afterwards and really articulate what those problems are that you're finding. It's not just a matter of going through the checklist, doing the notes, and just sending them out and forgetting about it. That's such a mistake, and you really can't learn all you want to learn by taking up valuable time from yourself, your team, your customers. You really want to extract as much value as possible, because unless you summarize and unless you really understand all the material and ask the questions, the whys and the hard questions during the interview itself, and then really pull those learnings out after the fact, you're not going to be able to connect dots. Because ultimately, what is the interview for? The interview is going to be used as an artifact or as a piece of qualitative data to justify feature decisions later. If you're in a situation where you're going back to your stakeholders, you're going back to your management team or your boss or whatever, and you're trying to defend priority decisions that you're making on your roadmap, and you can't pull up and you say, I've talked to 70 customers or I've talked to a ton of customers, which a lot of people do as a mistake, but you talk to a bunch of customers and you say, yeah, this is what's going on, and they say, well, prove it, and you can't clearly pull together the list of people that you spoke to that had that point or articulated that problem, or that's what the learning was that you gleaned from that conversation, that's problematic. So you need to be able to use interviews as an artifact alongside things like mixed panel data, Google Analytics data, alongside your quantifiable questions that you're SQLing and gathering data on. It's just another artifact, another piece of data to be able to use and collect that you synthesize all together later. And you can't do that unless you're actively synthesizing. Just raw notes, I don't think really work. They just get lost and forgotten about, and they're just stream of conscious. How are you going to actually be able to articulate any learnings from it? So really summarizing is very, very critical. It's almost the, to me, it's, over the years, it's emerged as the ultimate artifact of the interview itself. Recordings are great, notes are great, but really those are all in effort of being able to extract the problems, and that's the value. The problems are the value. So after that, really sharing, like how are you going to share the interview? I think if you think back to what are the questions you want to cover, the script up front, those types of things. After that, you're really going to want to be able to put in your Slack, talk about it at stand-up, talk about it at a weekly team meeting, and share it with the rest of the group. And honestly, just firing out raw notes is kind of shitty. And not really valuable to anybody. No one's going to read them, first of all. But if you can say, hey, I talked to Tammy, and she runs this business in Ohio, and it's 5 people. She does $2 million a year, whatever the case may be. And the best part about her day is coming into work or whatever, or her lunch break. And here's the top problem that we pulled out of that interview, that we learned about during that interview. I think there's obviously going to be solution discussions that happen naturally when you're talking to customers, and those are fine to capture as well. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong to capture feature ideas and so on and so forth. It's just another source of input for feedback. But really, to me, it comes down to how are you articulating the problems as a result of them, and how are you then communicating them back out to your team in order to make sure that the learnings are clear. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you soon.